Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Trent from GTM Fitness, and today I would like to talk to you about muscle building diet guidelines. Now, the reality is if you don't have the energy levels you would like to, if you're not building muscle as quick as you could be, then something needs to change, right? Now, I know dieting can seem complicated, and it doesn't have to be. And it better not be because it's the most important thing. You need to get this down if you want to build a great physique, okay? Now, the great thing is that we can still eat the foods that we love and enjoy while still packing on muscle and living a healthy lifestyle. Now, before I get into it, make sure you check out the article if you're coming from my YouTube channel. There I go into more detail and you can see things face to face to hopefully gain a better understanding. Now, let's get into the main muscle building diet guidelines. Also on the article, I have a nice little infographic to see all those things so you can check that out. So let's move on to the muscle building diet guidelines. Alright, so diving right in. Our daily calories are made up of our macronutrients, the protein, carbs, and fats. Now we need the proper balance of these to ensure we're packing on muscle like crazy. So let's start with protein. We do not need excessive amounts of protein to build muscle, and obviously we still need to hit that adequate amount. So I recommend getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight in each day. I even sometimes go as low as 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, and I build muscle perfectly fine. So having that balance will also ensure that we fill up on plenty of fats and carbs. So let's talk about fats more. Now, having an adequate amount of healthy dietary fat in our daily calories is first of all going to ensure proper testosterone production as well as other hormonal functioning as well. So I recommend getting about 25% to 30% of your daily calories from fat. Alright, now my favorite, carbs. Everyone loves carbs, right? Probably because they trigger the release of serotonin in the body. That's like the feel-good drug. They also support testosterone, and they're like anabolic fuel for our muscles in the gym. So carbs are very, very important. Go low on these, and you're going to have a tough time building muscle. So that's why after the 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein and the 25 to 30% of dietary fat, the rest of our daily calories are going to be made up of carbs. That's the perfect amount to gain muscle like crazy. Moving right down the line of the muscle building diet guidelines. What I mentioned earlier, we want to focus on getting about 80% of our daily calories from wholesome foods, as well as filling up on tons of fruits and vegetables, and focusing on higher calorie foods to get in our surplus easily. On the other side of things, that 20% of calories can come from enjoying life, because your diet must be enjoyable if you want to stay consistent with it. And that means, you can have a drink every once in a while. I usually every day either have frozen yogurt ice cream or some chocolate or maybe pop chips or some kind of dessert. And on the plus side, that's also going to allow us to hit our calorie surplus much easier, because you don't have to stay strict on this. It's not what life is about. We should be able to build muscle and enjoy our life to the fullest, and that's exactly what I'm trying to teach you. Alright, you're almost there, bear with me. The final things on the muscle building diet guidelines is not to become dependent on supplements. I know how tempting it is to buy the new fancy thing, the weight gainers and all that stuff. They're garbage, and all the other things you usually see locked in the shiny boxes at your local GNC or a vitamin shop. They're all garbage. Save your money and focus on buying more wholesome foods. As well as, don't focus on a particular eating schedule. You don't have to be strict. You don't need to eat 9 meals a day. You can just get your calories in, no matter how you do it. Like I personally, and on my schedule, can easily fit in 3 to 4 meals, moderately sized meals. Maybe your schedule calls for 6 meals. Whatever it is, just get in your daily calories and hit that surplus and make sure you're getting it from wholesome foods. As well as the most important thing, I think I even mentioned this earlier in the beginning of the video, you need to track your calories. You need to get a fitness app, not a fitness app or a diet tracking app like MyFitnessPal, MyNetDiary. Those are fantastic ones. Usually guys make the mistake of not even knowing how much calories they're eating, or maybe they're thinking they're eating tons of calories, but then they're wondering why they're not gaining weight. Well, that's your reason. You have to track your calories to ensure you're hitting that surplus every single day. So now let's move on to a little more details on what I'm talking about in this whole wholesome food thing. Let me tell you a funny story, or one of the many funny things that's starting to happen to me nowadays, because it almost seems as if my muscle building journey happened overnight. Not necessarily. That's why I always stress just do what you need to do. Okay, if you need to start building muscle, then dial in the stuff. absorb this article and video and just start doing it, because time is always going to be moving forward. So you might as well be doing something that's going to benefit yourself in the future. And you know how that always goes. You know, maybe you only see some of your family like one time a year, and they see you like, oh, you just keep getting bigger and bigger, taller and everything each and every year. You know, we always get that stuff. I like it. It makes me feel good, right? Making them gains, okay? But anyway, it's almost as if whenever I went from super skinny to building some muscle, everyone thinks I'm like some kind of crazy health nut. And I'm not. I'm not some health freak that only cares about clean eating and all that stuff. We're going to talk about that in a moment, because eating clean can actually hinder your muscle growth, right? Eating like too clean. We'll talk about that in a second. So a funny story. I remember going, I think it was around Christmas dinner or something like that. I was talking to my aunt, and she was like, oh, you know, how you doing? You're getting so big, all that good stuff. And she was like, you know, the conversation at dinner comes around, and she's like, Trent, is this meal going to be okay for you? I'm like, well, what are we having? I don't even know. She was like, lasagna. I'm like, of course I'm going to eat lasagna. You better have some butter bread with that too, right? So, I mean, first of all, I don't even know why she would think lasagna is an unhealthy dish, you know. I think it's almost perfect. You got meat in there, get some protein in there, tons of fat from like the cheese and all that, and carbs from the pasta. That's like a perfect dish, man. There's some bread on there for more carbs, and whatever, right? So and also have your veggies too, right? Meals like that are what's going to help you build muscle like crazy. So that's why I'm not so strict with my dieting, and I'm not some super health nut. I want to make my diet enjoyable, okay? All right, so you want to forget the mainstream, because talking about this is going to what brings out the main point of this video and article. Forgetting the mainstream is like maybe typical bodybuilding diets, or maybe eating super clean. Now the problem with eating like this is you're going to start to create holes in your diet. Now what do I mean by holes? Holes possibly mean if you're cutting out foods, like maybe you're only picking like 10 or 12 foods and only eating those foods, you're probably going to end up missing proper nutrients that your body needs. And you know what that means, right? You can potentially lead to deficiencies. And with deficiencies, you're probably not going to build muscle at your greatest potential, right? So that's why you need a huge balance of different foods to get in all those nutrients. Like typical bodybuilding diets might just be egg whites, protein powder, brown rice, broccoli, and fish oil, and oats, possibly. Only eating those things, it's like, where's the egg yolks? Where's the fatty meats? Where's the dairy? You know, you can't leave out that stuff. Our body needs a balance to give all the nutrients to ensure proper muscle growth and healthy bodily functions. I actually, on the article, I found that quite interesting, and I cited some studies that kind of reviewed the elite bodybuilders and even elite athletes and found holes in their diet. It's like, yes, like you would think like they need to eat a lot of calories and all that, but only focusing on certain foods start to leave holes in their diet, which you got to be careful of. Now, I also want to talk about, like I mentioned in the muscle building diet guidelines, you can't become too dependent on supplements or superfoods. I actually didn't even think that was a problem with the superfoods part, but of course they're great and they offer a lot of health benefits and antioxidants and all that. But what you need to do with superfoods and supplements is include them on top of a balanced diet comprised of wholesome foods, you know, and still hit your surplus and all that good stuff. You can't solely rely on those two things. You have to have everything in combination. That's why it's a supplement, like it will supplement your diet. Now, what about fad diets or any popular diet on the media nowadays? First of all, you must remember that most of the media nowadays is trying to get people to eat less and move more. So listening to that advice, trying to put on muscle, is probably not the best thing to do, because we need to eat in a calorie surplus. For example, like if you're trying to follow like a paleo diet, I probably won't recommend that right now, because the whole low carb approach is not beneficial trying to add a lot of muscle. You know, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. You know, on different things, like if you're a vegetarian, you know, you can make your muscle building journey happen. You just have to make sure you're sticking to the guidelines. You know, it comes down to personal preference. Like, I'm not going to tell you any differently from what you believe in, but always remember the guidelines to make sure you're getting in that balance of wholesome foods, you know, your protein, carbs, and fats, and muscle building is going to become a breeze for you. So you're getting the idea that you have to eat a foundation, a foundation of wholesome foods as well as you can also have maybe like 20% of your remaining calories come from, desserts and special treats for yourself, to make your diet enjoyable, to be able to stay consistent with it. Now, how I like to put all this into combination is cook like grandma. That's one of the headings on the article I wrote. Now, you may be able to relate this to grandma's cooking, or maybe like those big holiday dinners or holiday meals, right? I'm talking like you have everything available, your meats, your carbs, fats, all veggies, and even fruits sometimes, right? All that in combination. Like whenever I think about like a big meal like that, I'm thinking of like steak with like a gravy and mushroom marinade with veggies on the side, butter bread, and mashed potatoes, and all that good stuff, right? Those are the meals you want to strive to eat. That's how you're going to pack on muscle like crazy and ensure the proper nutrients in your body, and also easily hit that surplus in calories. And you can actually take a look at this list of foods right here. Nothing like special, okay? But those foods will ensure your body gets proper nutrients, and that's a good foundation of wholesome foods to base your diet off of. So that's basically it, guys. Again, you can check out the link in the description to head over to the article to get more of, in detail approach to what I'm talking about. And I hope this helps you, because dieting does not have to be complicated, and you can easily dial this in and put on muscle like crazy. So, if you like this video, guys, make sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the GTM Fitness newsletter. I keep everyone updated there. You get your free ebooks and all that good stuff. And until next time, guys, talk soon.